Welcome back to GraveyardDance.com. This week, we'll be taking a look at a very strange case from over 50 years ago that has somehow remained unsolved. Buckle up, because this is one of the creepiest unsolved mysteries you've probably never heard of. The death of Jeanette De Palma has haunted Springfield, New Jersey, for over 50 years. It's got everything: a missing teenager, strange symbols in the woods, whispers of cult activity, and a case file that somehow disappeared. If you're into eerie, unexplained true crime stories, this one's going to stick with you. Jeanette De Palma was just 16 years old when she vanished on August 7th, 1972. She was a pretty normal teenager, came from a religious family, had a solid group of friends, and was known for being kind-hearted. Her dream? She wanted to be a missionary, but like any teenager, she had a bit of a rebellious side, and there were rumors she hung around with a few sketchy people. That summer day, she told her mom she was heading out to visit a friend. She never came home. For 6 weeks, nobody had a clue what happened to her. Then, in the most horrifying way possible, her fate was revealed. A dog came trotting home, carrying a severed human forearm in its mouth. Yeah, let that sink in for just a moment. What would you do if your dog just walked up to you and offered you a hand? Apparently, the dog brought the arm, which was somehow attached to the hand, to the apartment complex where it lived, and the hand fell off, which separated the two parts of the grisly discovery. When he showed his owner what he had found, she called the police immediately, and they soon found the rest of the hand. They knew that if all this was found in this close of a proximity, the rest of the remains were probably not too far away. They would be correct in that assumption. The police followed the trail and ended up at Hoodale Quarry, a secluded area in the Watchung Reservation. And there, lying on a rocky outcrop, was Jeanette's decomposing body. But here's where it gets weird. Reports say she was surrounded by strange objects. A halo made of rocks around her head, crosses all around her body, wooden branches arranged in odd formations, maybe even animal remains. Some people swear it looked like a full-on occult scene. Naturally, this kicked off a ton of rumors. Was Jeanette sacrificed in some kind of ritual? Were devil worshippers lurking in the woods? Keep in mind, this was the early 70s, right before the whole satanic panic craze really took off. People were already on edge about the idea of cults doing dark and twisted things in the shadows. And here was a potential real-life example, right in their backyard. But let's get back to the investigation. You'd think with a scene that bizarre, there would be obvious evidence pointing to what happened. Nope. The coroner couldn't even determine a cause of death. No signs of stabbing, no gunshot wounds, no clear strangulation marks. Toxicology reports? Inconclusive, because the body was too decomposed. It was like she had just died, and then someone or something arranged the scene around her. So who did it? Well, theories have been swirling for decades. One theory: she got mixed up with the wrong crowd, maybe some local drug users, and overdosed. Panicked, her so-called friends staged the scene to make it look like something more sinister. Then there's the idea that an actual cult was involved. Some Springfield locals believed there was a secret group practicing dark rituals in the woods, and Jeanette was an unlucky victim. People claimed animals had been found mutilated in the area, which only added fuel to the fire. And let's not forget the police files on her case. Many of them mysteriously disappeared over the years. Coincidence or cover-up? A homeless man known as Red was briefly questioned, but there was no evidence to pin him to the crime. Some people whispered that local authorities knew more than they let on, maybe even protecting someone. And then there's the possibility that Jeanette's death had nothing to do with the occult at all. What if she was the victim of a serial killer? But if that's the case, who and why? Many have speculated that the case could be related to the John List massacre, and rightfully so. The case of John List is one of the most chilling family annihilation crimes in American history, not just because of its brutality, but because of the cold, calculated manner in which it was carried out. On November 9, 1971, in the affluent suburb of Westfield, New Jersey, John List murdered his entire family: his wife, Helen, his 85-year-old mother, Alma, and his 3 children, Patricia, John Jr., and Frederick. He executed them methodically in their 19-room Victorian mansion, shooting each one in the back of the head or face, except for his eldest son, John Jr., who was shot repeatedly as if List had some special rage or fear toward him. After the murders, List went about cleaning up, cutting himself out of family photos and meticulously arranging the crime scene. He turned on the lights in the house, played classical music over the intercom system, and wrote a detailed letter to his pastor, explaining that he had killed his family to save their souls from the moral decay of the modern world. This statement right here, remember this as we go forward. Without any urgency, he disappeared, leaving the bodies to be discovered weeks later when neighbors noticed that something was wrong. John List had been a deeply religious man, a strict Lutheran who believed that faith, morality, and order were paramount. But beneath the surface, he was a man unraveling. He had lost his job as an accountant and was drowning in debt, unable to maintain the lavish lifestyle his wife and children had grown accustomed to. Rather than face humiliation, List decided the only way out was to eliminate his family entirely. He claimed he feared they would turn away from God if they lived in poverty, and he convinced himself that he was doing them a favor by sending them to heaven. Remember the halo around Jeanette's head and all the crosses? This happened just a few miles from where John List did these horrific crimes. Maybe List blamed Jeanette somehow for leading his own daughter into a witch's coven, something he had been really upset about. His daughter being in a coven and practicing witchcraft. Not that Jeanette had led her into it. That's just an idea I'm throwing out there because of the close time frame and proximity of both cases. What's most disturbing about his crime is not just the murder itself, but the way he detached from it afterward. He vanished, assuming a new identity and evading capture for nearly 18 years before a tip from a neighbor, who recognized him from an episode of America's Most Wanted, led to his arrest in 1989. By then, he had remarried, built a new life, and seemed to have no remorse for what he had done. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, where he died in 2008. Fast forward to the 1990s and early 2000s, when independent investigators, including the guys at Weird NJ magazine, decided to take a fresh look at the case. They found a whole lot of nothing. Witnesses had conflicting stories. Police files were missing. It was like the case had been deliberately erased from history. And that's where we're left today. No suspects, no arrests, and no answers. Just a lot of chilling questions. Did Jeanette De Palma stumble upon something she wasn't supposed to? Did she become the victim of a ritualistic murder? Or was her death something far less supernatural, but just as tragic? And if someone in Springfield knows the truth, why have they stayed silent all these years? The mystery of Jeanette De Palma's death lingers like a ghost story whispered around a campfire. Maybe one day, new technology or a long-buried secret will finally crack the case. But until then, her story remains one of New Jersey's most haunting unsolved mysteries. Some locals believe Jeanette's case was intentionally buried. Not just forgotten, but actively covered up. There were whispers that people in power, maybe even within law enforcement, didn't want the truth coming out. Were they involved? Or did they just want to avoid hysteria over the idea of a cult committing murders in their small town? Another strange part of this case? The lack of media coverage at the time. Sure, her disappearance made the news when she first went missing, but after her body was found, things went quiet, eerily quiet. If this was a random, tragic death, why the radio silence? If it really was cult-related, wouldn't you expect the press to go wild with the story? The lack of attention is almost as suspicious as the crime itself. Then there's the Watchung Reservation itself. This wasn't just any forested area. It had a reputation. Over the years, there have been countless reports of strange happenings in those woods. Weird noises at night, shadows moving in the trees, and of course, the ever-present rumors of rituals taking place. Jeanette wasn't the first person to be linked to something unsettling in that forest, and she wouldn't be the last. Let's also talk about Jeanette herself for a moment. Some people say she was deeply religious, but others claim she had started hanging with the wrong crowd. What if she had gotten involved in something she didn't fully understand? Maybe she wasn't a victim of a cult. Maybe she was part of it, at least in some small way, and things spiraled out of control. Maybe she knew too much, and someone wanted to keep her quiet. Maybe she had gotten herself into something she couldn't get out of. It's just one of many possible ideas that's out there. Either way, nothing she could have done warranted what was done to her. She was just barely a kid who had even begun to live her life yet. It's such a sad and tragic thing for anyone that young to die, especially in a way like this. If you take one thing away from this story, let it be this. Someone out there knows what happened to Jeanette De Palma. Maybe they were there that night. Maybe they've kept a dark secret buried for years. Or maybe, just maybe, the truth is even stranger than any of us could ever imagine. Rest in peace, sweet girl. Rest in peace. We really hope you enjoyed the video enough to smash that like button and to subscribe to our channel. Let us know what you think of the video and what you'd like to hear more about in the comments section below. You can see all our work either by heading to our channel on YouTube. Just search Graveyard Dance Channel and it'll pop up. Or you can head to our website where you can see all our work. Pick up some sweet merch while you're there. And also, I almost forgot, check out our sponsors eyesofadog.com and Steam Engine Sales. They are both on our site. Till next time, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you all very much.